on the national ID, what guarantees can the panelists give that the announcement on advertisement or advertisement will not miss, I think, the account holder who is based abroad? And of course, Mr. Katamba could also talk about this operation, talk about whether banks are engaged in the SMS alerts and any other online outreaches. Those are questions I think we have outstanding. But so far, so good. We'll eventually, after we're done with Mr. Katamba, we'll come back to you, Maria.
Okay. Mr. Katamba, we are going to ask you to come and take on the next session. A couple of questions have already come through, such as how commercial banks would be contacting diaspora. I don't know whether you can speak on behalf of all commercial banks or just the section where you're from. And also, I see something about, does the claimant have to use the same process for this money at one point on business accounts? There are quite a couple of things that are coming from people. And I think it has to do with also the use of the national ID. Now that people are asked to put the national ID, their name numbers on the accounts, and the text SMSs that are supposed to be coming to the diaspora. Of course, if I have a Ugandan number, that's clear cut, but diaspora numbers sometimes are not getting these texts to be able to activate the accounts. So this is in your lane, Mr. Katamba, and we welcome you to the floor.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much, Madam President, for organizing this. Let me also say a big thank you to the PS Dr. Gobi, Jim, and Dr. Twine for such an elaborate explanation of the matter at hand. Let me also say that we are here largely because of misrepresentation of information. Otherwise, we have worked with the diaspora for many years as a banking industry, and the law has been in place. For instance, the FIA has been in place since 2004 and only been amended and improved in 2016. And the real core thing about all amendments in the FIA is really to take care of consumer protection and depositor protection, really just improving that over and over again. And all the other additional provisions like the Deposit Protection Fund, the Consumer Protection Guidelines, all are intended to make it safer and better for customers and users of accounts. Now, let me start with the national ID. So I think Twine tried to clarify the fact that if you have an account, it's really useful that you're relatively in touch with those who manage your money. You relatively check balances. You're in touch in some form. Today, email is one sure way. Some banks will also have WhatsApp access, etc. So it's really important. How do banks reach you? Banks will use the information available, contact information available on your account. Although when we move to the diaspora, many times, you maybe move from one state to another, addresses will change, you may change phone numbers, but always try to have up-to-date information available to the bank, because that's the first point of call to reach onto your bank account, check your details, and then try to reach you through the last available information that a bank has. So try as much as possible to stay in touch with your bank, first and foremost, to update your personal information, update your current address, your current email, and your current telephone number. That's important. So for all the brothers and sisters in the diaspora online right now, if the information on your bank account is not your current contact information, try to reach out tonight or tomorrow, drop an email to your bank and just start the process of updating the information. So the national ID is another piece of information to update, but that's because of a law that's come into force that Twine has explained very, very, very well. So if you are a citizen, as many people will be Ugandan citizens, but living in the diaspora, and you want to register for the national ID, you then go to the NERA online application portal. And once, I'm sure NERA does come to UNAA, for instance. If they don't, Henrietta, you need to reach out to them because it's their mandate, right? To make it easy for the registration of our diaspora brothers and sisters because of the importance that you have as citizens of this country. So on there, once you go onto the online application, you will get a reference number, right? That reference number is a good starting point for your bank to have because then it shows that you've begun the process of application for a national ID. There's a part where you reach and you need to go to the embassy, to the Ugandan embassy for fingerprinting, right? But once you have the reference number, that's a good starting point. If you've changed citizenship again, and you want to go the route of having a contact, sorry, the account information to reflect you as, say, a US citizen, then it will be useful you do just like Twine mentioned, that process to show that you are the same person, but now you have new citizenship. By that time then, so what you will share will be a copy of your passport, your US passport, for instance, and a proof of residence now at that time. In the US, I think it will be driver's license or, you know, bills or something like that, right? So really that's it. Contact information is what the bank has. That's what it will use to reach out to you. The best person to provide that information is you, right? So if it's not up to date, the bank will try to reach you. They will not be able to reach you. So update your information. That's absolutely important, right? So when we, the process that Twine and Dr. Gobi have kind of tried to elaborate on dormancy and how we move 2 years, 3 years, you know, another 5 years, all the 10 years, etc. All of that. At some point when we put out in the media to advertise this information, we also put it on our websites. Typically, the banks will do that so that you are able to see it from there, okay? So I think that's it really. The issue at hand, which was mostly about the scare that was created, I think there's nothing really to add from what the previous speakers have so eloquently explained and clarified. You know, I could go over it because this is what we do. And Jim, just to clarify, yes, we are private sector, but we operate under laws of government set by. So really everything we do is in line with what Twine has laid out there. So I think that the fear should not be there at all because this is the same law we've operated under for all this time. And contact information, just update, reach out to your bank. I think that relationship is important so that you're up to date. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Katamba, for those remarks. And yes, NERA actually has been coming to UNAA to make sure that they help those who need the ID services implemented. Actually, in talks with the embassy, they may be coming here in a few weeks. We have about 4 locations that we will be working on to make sure that they can get as many people register for their IDs, especially given what we are seeing now. Folks, you need your IDs to transact in Uganda. That is the cleanest, shortest version I can give you right now. If we tell you that NERA is coming to your area and you're already someone who transacts in Uganda, you better get your IDs. Some of us have learned it the hard way that yes, we do need these IDs to do transactions. You were born in Uganda, that means you have the right and can actually get a Ugandan ID. There are a couple of questions in the chat, and there's one in particular that someone called Wagumba has put out there that says, please comment on the statement attributed to the Finance Minister, Honorable Matia Kasaija. We have a plan of requesting a very kwache or kadama sekadama of his or her savings when they come back to Uganda. Help us overcome the big. I think this is something I saw on social media. And if I remember well, Mr. Mugunga, I think you sent someone saying that this was false. It was fake news. But this is a question that has been sent to Dr. Twinemazi for clarification.
Yeah, I think Dr. Twinemazi will clarify. And as he does, there's also the question of whether there are numbers of deposits a year that must be made for one to keep the account active. And the other one, which Dr. Twinemazi should also deal with, or Sakatamba, is whether you allow passports in the absence of IDs, whether one can use a passport which they use to open an account to be able to access their funds.
Okay, so perhaps I can just throw a little bit of light on passports. So if you look at today, if you go to the passport office in Uganda and you want to renew your passport or you want to get a passport, the passport office will require your national ID, right? So citizenship registration document is the national ID. And so, and that's why you need to have a national ID so that you get a NIN. And so I think what the president of UNAA has said is really important. Get the national ID, at least even if you have your passport, demonstrate that you have commenced the process of registration for the NIN by having that reference number, which I mentioned, that you get immediately the moment you start the application, and then follow through, go to the embassy, get the biometrics taken, and then you get your NIN. And then you've really resolved this aspect. Now, if you want to use your American passport, for instance, if you've changed citizenship or if you're now a dual citizen, it's that the choice now is yours to change what kind of citizenship you want to use. If you want to use the American citizenship, then you will need the American passport and the proof of residence, as I've mentioned, which would be a driver's license or bill or something like that, right? Yeah, the fake news, we've seen the fake news. There's lots of fake news on different things all the time. One wouldn't pay much attention to that. So I think, how many transactions do you need to do to keep your account open? I mean, look, dormancy means there has not been any for a bank account for 2 years. But now you have many options. You can use, there are many remittance options, for instance, for you to do a transaction onto your account. Even one transaction in that period, the account will not be dormant. So internally, the banks take measures to see that if your account is not dormant but inactive, that again it is safe, right? And so there's regular monitoring. But just making your remittance, for instance, one activity will demonstrate that that account has had activity on it that is not a bank charge. Okay, but I encourage you to use your accounts. There's so much you can do in Uganda. Take advantage, of the different instruments you can invest in here, etc. So really use those accounts, and take advantage of the benefit of you having a financial partner in Uganda. Thank you.
Mr. Kata, but just say, Madam Chair, Madam President, just one issue for clarity. The issue that the President referred to, actually, when I tried to check, it had been posted earlier. And what I found out is that there's been a lot of change by the time somebody opens an account and by the time you start operating it, and 5-7 years later, the identity of that individual has really changed. So what is happening is that most of the Ugandans in the diaspora come back with passports that either do not define them in relation to the national ID. So you have a third name adapted, and you are not using it in the national ID, or the national ID has 2 names, 3 names, and your passport has 1 name. So where Ugandans have been complaining on the posts, the claims have been that the national ID or the passport is actually rejected. But I think there's a resolution on how you can deal with that, and I'll ask Dr. Dormant to speak to that, because that's increasingly an issue where the names in the ID and the names in the passports do not tally, and therefore Ugandans in the diaspora have found it difficult to operate.
Dr. Dormant, I think you're on mute. I don't know whether he's still there, Mr.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you. So I'm not too sure what question I should address, because I thought some of them have been addressed by Mr. Katamba. But like, I would just want to have to reiterate that your account information that you provide determines whether or not the bank will be able to update you on any activity on your account. Okay? If this is not updated, it becomes very difficult for the bank to get in touch with you. That's one. I saw a question in the forum where someone said they left Uganda in 1992 and had accounts with, I believe it was Standard and some other bank. All that person has to do today is to come either send a legal representative. You can appoint a lawyer to represent you. Provide them with the information to identifies you as the account holder, together with the letters of appointing that representative to claim the money on your behalf. Like I said, even if it was 1992, it could even be 1980. Now, there was a question that also came up, which is rather interesting. That's what happened in the event you have money on your e-wallet, you have not used it in 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and the company that was managing your e-wallet subsequently goes bankrupt and is closed. I want to help people understand one thing, is that the money actually sits in a commercial. The funds in those escrow accounts are protected in the event any institution is being closed or wound up, even if it's the bank or the actual e-wallet itself. The most important thing is, as long as you can identify yourself, you will always have access to your money. So whether or not the company has been closed or is still in existence, if it's been closed, the funds are ring-fenced and are not available for any bankruptcy proceedings or insolvency proceedings, and therefore remain available for you to claim.
Thank you very much. Someone is asking if Internal Affairs is involved in identifying account owners for those dormant accounts that end up to Bank of Uganda, and if the government makes any effort to look for the account owners. In case the owners are dead, does the government make an effort to look for the family of the deceased to see that those accounts can be claimed by those next of kin?
Henrietta, now, if someone is deceased, I don't see how the government should start looking for the persons or the beneficiary of that person's estate. If the person dies intestate, there is a specific procedure under the Administrator General's law in terms of how the matters of the estate get resolved. Okay? At that point, the government would appoint an administrator for the estate, who would then be responsible for figuring out where all the assets of the estate are and consolidating them and identifying the beneficiaries. If the person dies with a will, it dies intestate, dies will, leaves behind a will. They specify what they own and what they don't own, and allows the administrators to proceed and recover those monies. Okay. Second, the Minister of Internal Affairs is not in any way involved in identifying the close of dormant accounts. like I said, the process, I was very clear. The process is very clear. The moment an account has no activity, meaning for 2 years, like I said earlier on, you've had no activity, no deposit, no withdrawal for 2 years. The kind of process within the banks and the Bank of Uganda that goes on. At no point is the Ministry of Internal Affairs involved, none whatsoever. Unless that provides the clarity that the person was asking. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it does. I'm looking through these to just make sure that people's questions were answered through the conversation. Okay. Looks like people are actually understanding what's happening, because as we go on, people are now asking me what are the advantages of banking in Uganda, which would maybe bring us to the next session, because looks like people have now come to understand that this was more of Wolokoso. The government is not taking your money. They have explained to you what dormant accounts are, what the periods are, what the timelines are that affect your account to become dormant. So really, I think what I would be asking is, what can we do as diasporans? What can we get from you guys to make sure that we are protected? How can we make sure that our money is correctly invested in the right way in Uganda, so that we can add some kind of value to it? I don't want to have, for example, $10,000 seated on my account, whereas I could actually be multiplying and making it work. Mr. Katamba, I guess this is a question that would come to you as someone who comes from the commercial bank arena, and you always come to UNAA to answer such questions to members. So what are the advantages that people can get as depositors of funds in Uganda? What can they do to make their money of good use as they are putting it in your banking institutions there?
First of all, thank you very much, Henrietta. But I am not going to make a sales pitch, right? But what I'm going to try and do is to really provide clarity on the benefit. I mean, look, if you have money sitting on a bank account anywhere in the world, especially in the Western world, you will never get the kind of returns that you can if you invest your money in instruments here in Uganda, for instance. And you will have large, funds, bringing their money here, maybe even some of your pension funds and, their managers trying to see that they come here to buy our instruments to get a good return. I don't know what yield you can get on, treasury instruments, for example, the United States. In some places in Europe, it's even negative, right? So there's a real opportunity for you to bring your money here and then work with your bank to invest that money for you in different instruments. They can blend for you, right? But I also imagine at some point you plan to come back to Uganda or to do some things in Uganda. It helps for you to have a financial history, a history of your bank account, a history of the turnover on that account. Speaks a little bit to a picture of your financial person, right? So you're not an alien, if you like. But generally, it's a good place to invest. Our financial system is very, 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 very stable. The banks are extremely well regulated. As you've seen, we are only having this discussion because of misinformation, not because of anything that has happened to make the financial sector, weak or anything like that. So what we are dealing with in this call is the information age or the post-information age and the challenges with misinformation today, right? But it's important that we continue having these conversations whenever what you've done, President, is the right thing. Whenever things like this come up, let's have a dialogue so that you have the right picture, right? So you have exactly the same information as we have, right? You have the government through the Ministry of Finance, you have the Regulator Bank of Uganda, you have the banks through the association. Tomorrow you have the governor and the minister. I mean, so the financial sector is safe. The benefit is that you cannot invest anywhere and get a better yield than you would here. Certainly not in the US. So under no circumstances should you have $10,000 dormant, idle on your account in the United States, unless you are planning to start a business or something. You send the money here and talk with your bank to invest the money for you in instruments for 6 months, for 1 year. You can buy, bonds for longer periods, very good returns. You can actually live off the benefit that you earn from your money working for you in Uganda. You can live well in the US, right? So if you buy 20-year bonds with the kind of return you can get on those, and just keep every time plowing back, you can live off that in the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Katamba. I have someone with a question for reassurance. How can the bankers reassure us that information that's attached to their accounts will be protected and not leaked through misuse or different purposes? And I think the other question was, someone was asking if only deposits would qualify for transactions. No, from the whole conversation we have had, it is any deposits or any withdrawals. So it's not just deposits. So I guess, Mr. Katamba, that's a question for you as someone from the commercial bank. How sure can people be reassured that their information is not leaked and it's protected? I guess, how are your secure mechanisms in DFCU?
So, and again, I'll speak for the entire sector. Yes, we are in Uganda and you guys are in the United States. But data protection is a global issue, and banks are the global financial system does recognize data protection as one of the most critical aspects. There are laws to this, even from the point of view of our own country. So your data is protected. Everything, all the security that we put in place is to protect that data, the way data is handled, the way it is transmitted, the way it is stored, personal information and things like that. And so your data is protected. This is a business of trust. And that's why when you have, incidents and events like this, we are here on the call to restore that trust in you, just so that trust does not waver at all. So data protection is a critical issue. We're aware of cybersecurity, for instance. We've seen, data loss from large corporations in the United States and in other parts of the world. And so just making sure that those breaches don't happen is something that keeps us awake every time. We update our security and we invest significantly in data security just to make sure that your data is well protected.
Thank you so much. And someone also asks, how do taxes factor in? Because sometimes Uganda Revenue Authority doesn't give members incentives to invest, and that's why they hold back on their investments. Whereas maybe you guys could have something that can actually lure them to invest. Is there anything that you can throw their way that they can think, well, it's worth putting their money in Uganda at the end of the day in the banking sector?
Can I, Madam Chairperson, can I request the PS to speak to broadly on the incentives for investment in Uganda? Why is it appropriate for Ugandans to consider investing home? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and all the panelists. I think so far so good in terms of making clear to everybody about the information which is right, and separating it from the misleading falsehoods. As far as actually investment is concerned, you know, like Matthias was telling you, and this is just not to really sell anything or what. Uganda is one of those areas now where you can invest your money in portfolios, in various instruments, and you get very good return on your money. Ourselves, we invest. I remember a couple of years ago, I bought a 10-year bond at 17%. Can you imagine? 17% return on that investment. Where can you find that in this world? And every 6 months, I get money, which is enough to run all my bills. And my 100%, I mean, the 100 million that I put in is intact. So if you don't allow money to lie on your account idle, like 10,000, you have your $10,000. The safest area right now, everywhere in the world, is of course in government securities, because governments are now, you know, first of all, government securities are always the safest because they are almost risk-free, particularly longer-term ones, the treasury bonds in this case. The yield, if you check the yields right now, a 2-year bond is 13% right now, a 3-year bond about the same return, the same yield, 5-year bond about 15%, and so on and so forth. And now in Uganda, we have a 10-year bond, a 15-year bond, a 20-year bond. But if you want short-term, like a treasury bills, they are also there. 91 day, you can ask your bank to just buy, you know, invest in a short term, 91 day, treasury bill, 182 day, 301 year treasury bill. And the return will be above the CBR rate, the central bank rate, the rate at which they are keeping the inflation under control. So for those who are in the diaspora, the portfolio arena is very important to keep safe, but at the same time is making it for you money. The good thing with the government securities, they are risk-free, particularly those longer term, risk-free. I saw somewhere in the comments, someone was saying, how can I invest but at a risk? You think that it is only in the United States where the risk is low and in Uganda the risk is high. No, the government securities are risk-free. You invest, you are assured of the return on your investment. The best entity to trust your money with everywhere in the world is government. It will pay at a good interest. But also we have now diversified our economy to ensure that you can be able to invest in different areas. And we are going to have a deliberate strategy of building our indigenous capital, of ensuring that Ugandans, wherever they are, whether in Uganda or abroad, have an advantage to take full advantage of the opportunities that are available. And I will now be interacting more closely with you, Madam President, and UNAA, to really highlight the various areas where the members who are online on this call can take full advantage. But for now, I would want to tell you that in line with the policy of government of deepening the financial sector, we are interested so much in those who are ready to invest in long term kind of portfolio investments. You want to buy bonds, you are likely to be really very much welcome and make money. And that's what Matthias was telling you. Instead of putting the money in his DFCU and it is there on a current account or savings account, earning 3% also, ask the bank, ask him to invest your money in various instruments. You can actually try to diversify them in different areas, short term, long term. I'm telling you, you will find no area anywhere in the world which has very high return. That's why you see most of those Europeans, Americans are investing here. When for Ugandans, we are not taking that full advantage of investing here. So you need really to trust us. What we are telling you, you will be the ones to tell the story, not us, in a couple of years when you have made such investments in our portfolios. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Gobi. We are looking through the chat to see if there are any hands that are raised so that we can wrap this up. I know it's getting late in Uganda, but we just want to make sure that we have as many of these questions asked because we don't want to leave any stones unturned.
Madam Chairperson, as you check, I wanted to just clarify one little thing. It sounds little, but it's actually important. What's happening is operating from Uganda, we also know that you, on your side, go through a lot of changes from some of them, of your membership, from the time they left Uganda after opening an account to the time we are speaking to date. Some get married, some marry people, on that side, and they adapt their names as the third name. Yet the documents that opened an account in Uganda were Amin Nakakande, and then all of a sudden, the person who shows up with an American passport is Amin Nakakande Matthews. Now, those little things sound as if they are little when we are pursuing our citizenship and, stay and green cards and so on. But they matter a lot for us to really try to update your records, as Matthias was saying. So the simple advice I would give is that you could, as you do your documentation for nationality and so on, dual citizenship and so on, you could as well swear an affidavit, get it commissioned, get a notary public to document, so that by the time you come to Uganda, your documents add up and they have certification of your legal representatives. That way we solve the problem of, they tossed me up and down, they denied me my money and so on. So I really believe some of this is still in our docket as individuals to try and put our records straight. The other issue which is outstanding, I think, from the comments is the issue of data protection. Somebody has said that panelists seem to be speaking from another part of Uganda, another part and not Uganda, because we have no data protection. I don't think that's really correct. We have a specific act that protects data, and that was passed by Parliament. But I also want to add that we all know that laws and the habits and the ways of doing things, it doesn't drop. It's not a switch on and off like electricity. We grow in these processes. What you're beginning to see the banks doing, documenting, trying to safeguard, make sure that people file information and this information is held in trust. It's part of a journey to make sure that we are documented, but also that data will be protected, and the banks are responsible and they are regulated to ensure that we don't go out of our way to unnecessarily throw personal information out there. So I thought I would clarify that.
Madam President, this is Dr. Tunemanzi. I would like to add on something about data protection also, if I may. Am I allowed?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes. In addition to what Matthias has said about data protection and what Mr. Mgunga just indicated, I want to give comfort to everyone on this call that the Data Protection and Privacy Act of 2019 actually was largely a model of general data protection regulation of the EU. That's one. Two, the agency responsible for the protection of implementation of that particular law is the National Information Technology Authority, which has since created a national data office. That's 2. 3, as the bank supervisor, the person responsible for the regulation of the activities of the banks in this country, one of the things we do when we are conducting examinations of bank activity is that we look at the way the banks handle data, how they handle it, how they secure it, who has access to what and when and for what reasons. All this information must be clearly, and the practices and the policies must be in any bank that is receiving the depositors' money and generally keeping their transactional history. I know someone has said that that we are talking like we're from another country, but I would like to give comfort that I believe it was a gentleman, that no, we are in Uganda, and that's why you will notice. And Madam President, I think you have been you have unfortunately suffered, like you said, you've learned it the hard way. Is that increasingly the banks are very stringent on the issues of identifying their customers. It's a matter that because of, even from an anti-money laundering perspective, the identity of the person who managing the account must be clearly clarified. The person who comes to claim that account must also be clearly articulated, and we as supervisors follow up to ensure that that is being done. Otherwise, and Matthias will confirm this, it is at risk of penalty or perhaps or even administrative sanction for the banks if the data is not being handled in a manner that is specified under the law and which international best practice requires. Thank you.
Dr. Twine, I can confirm that. Basically, the banking system just ascribes to the highest form of data governance, and it's good. Some person has mentioned that we are speaking as if we're not from Uganda. I think Uganda has advanced that much as part of the global community when it comes to things like compliance, in areas relating to data protection, etc. We have, in addition to being regulated and following the laws in Uganda, banks also ascribe to the expectations of many other partners that they work with that are global in nature. So have no doubt at all in the financial system, and when you're dealing with the financial system in Uganda, you're in a safe zone. It's a highly regulated zone with professionals and the highest levels of compliance when it comes to data. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Katamba, for adding the clarification, and thank you so much, Dr. Twine and Mr. Mugunga, for those remarks. I think we had a very good talk, and I'm glad that I was able to reach out to all of you, and I appreciate that you were able to come and actually clear the air when it came to all these social media stories that we are going around. It gives us reassurance as diaspora to know that our needs are being taken in account as you legislate policies, as you put policies in place when it comes to financial institutions. We will be following up if we have any more questions, and we hope that when we invite you, you can come and actually engage us, actually speak to us and let us know what is required of us to be able to transact correctly and efficiently in Uganda, and also make sure that whatever we are doing in Uganda is protected for us as diaspora. This session has been recorded. We are going to make sure that it is shared widely. We are going to make sure that our social media handles still have it on for at least the next 12 months. So anyone who would like to kind of get the recorded message, reach out to us. It will be available to you. I would like to thank you, Dr. Ramadan Gobi, Mr. Jim Mugunga, Dr. Twine Manzi, Mr. Matthias Katamba, and of course our Executive Secretary, Mr. Lambert Etibot, for making sure that we had this session and were able to present it to members. For all of you that feel you still have more questions, send them to us. We are going to make sure that they get to these said gentlemen here. And we look forward to also the announcement that will be out there to continue to reassure our members that our investments are safe in Uganda, because if they are not, believe you me, we will be coming back and we will be seeking those answers, and we will never stop doing that. As UNAA, we are always here to serve you. We are always here to make sure that we are protecting and serving our diaspora first. Thank you so much, and God bless you all. Have a good night in Uganda, a good afternoon in North America, and any other people that are listening to us. Thank you all, gentlemen. I appreciate you taking out time out of your busy schedules to have spent it with us here today. Thank you.
Recording. Tuchiwandikanga wochiwulira.